Welcome to Amakhosikazi Media Channel. My name is Preeti Nxumalo. On this platform, we discuss a topic of interest that is raised through our documentary. So we recently launched a documentary on the impact of water crisis on women and girls. The documentary is a narration of how women and girls in Bulawayo have been affected by lack of water, and we are having guests with us who are going to help us discuss on the issues that were raised in the documentary. So, we recently launched a documentary that is a narration on the impact of the Bulawayo water crisis on women. So, I would like to welcome you to this discussion that we are going to have. Basically, we just want to find out your views on the issues that were raised on the documentary. So I am joined by Zaipo, who is a human rights defender and the present executive director of Africa Kiburi, a movement focusing on women and girls to achieve Agenda 2030. Thank you for coming through, Zaipo. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Preeti. Thank you.
We are also joined by Sakile Dewa, who is the vice chairperson for Amanzi Trust. This is an organization that seeks to bring the Matabeleland Zambezi water project to fruition. We know that Matabeleland Zambezi water project is the long-term solution to our city's water crisis. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. How are you?
Sorry, thank you for having me, and very good afternoon to you all.
We also have Kumbulani Maposa, the Human Rights Coordinator for Matabeleland Institute for Human Rights. This is an organization that builds and strengthens nonviolent movements for protection of human rights. So they are currently running the Bulawayo Water Action BOA social movement, which is dealing with the water issues in Bulawayo. Hello, Kundu. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you very much for having me. And since it's International Human Rights Day, I will say a Human Rights Day to all of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll start with Sakile. You watched that documentary. So, what were your impressions on the documentary?
Sorry, Preeti, I'm struggling to hear you.
Oh, I was saying you watched that documentary, right?
Yes.
So I want to find out your impressions of the documentary.
Okay. On my part, I thought it came at the appropriate time. And by that, I'm referring to the emphasis was on its impact on women per se, not on the general populace, the impact of the water crisis that we're in on women. And why I'm saying it comes at the appropriate time is during the 16 days of gender activism. And it's one aspect of gender abuse that is being highlighted by that video. There are so many chores that we undertake on a day-to-day basis, and we don't even recognize them as being gender abuse. Women clearly bear the brunt of the water shortages, as was highlighted in the video. You see women going to collect water from water kiosks and from those Kamina Kawena boreholes with children on their backs. And in that interview, one of the ladies mentioned that they're carrying as much as 80 liters a day. That is the requirement for their household. And I mean, to expect women to carry such heavy loads and think nothing of it is really something that I think society needed to be conscientized about. Most of those women are housewives. And we all know that whilst we do not measure in terms of our GDP, how much work is being done by housewives, we can't eliminate the fact that, you know, it is a lot for women to bear, and it does contribute to the well-being of society. But there are so many ills, if I can use that term, that come with our having to draw water from boreholes and water kiosks in an urban setup. We're not in the rural parts of the country. So we should have running water coming through our taps. I'm actually in a certain WhatsApp group that deals with issues to do with water, where burst pipes are reported, etc. And there was a discussion on Kami water, which the city council was seeking to bring to Bulawayo to alleviate the shortages. And funny enough, the most outspoken people on that forum are men, and they're saying no to Kami water, right? But they're not the ones who are waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and draw water from these kiosks. So really, from a gender perspective, it came at the right hour.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Then now that you mentioned that most of the people are saying no to Kami water are men, yet the burden of fetching water lies on women. I would like to hear Kumbu's comments on the documentary. Maposa can come through and comment, give your comments on the documentary. What were your impressions when you watched the documentary?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think what I will say about the documentary is that it's embarrassing that in 2020, we are still talking about where to get water in an urban area. That's very, very embarrassing. Right now, we should be talking about the improving the standard of our water and the like, you know, and how much water we continuously consuming, not when we are saying where do we get it. And that's what comes into my mind when I watch the documentary, to say we are not embarrassed really. And the other thing that is there is that you find that, as my sister had said it, it's mainly the women and the children that bear the brunt of going to fetch the water. Of course, I have gone in some areas where I've seen young men, I've seen men, but the truth of the matter, which we can't run away from, is that we are villagizing our urban area. We're making them like a rural village where people have to go to a borehole or to a central place, especially women, to get the water. So the issue of burden of unpaid care work comes in. No, gender burdens come in, especially for women. And it is therefore a need for our local authority and our government to be very serious. Because also remember, an urban area is an economic zone. At what time are these women going to get involved in the economic activities of the city, the country, and empower their lives if they are queuing for water for 5 hours? So you are further impoverishing women. And even before we talk of economy, it's about the issue of water poverty. You know what? I can, I can do with 5 liters of water a day. Even 2, as a man, I can do with 2 liters of water a day. I can manage. But a woman can't. And the issues of water poverty are coming in. It's the poverty that is mainly felt by the women and the girls. So that's why I'm saying it's embarrassing, really, that in our governance architecture, we are still talking about these things. In 2020 of all the years, where we should have passed all this and we should be talking about, you know, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. We should be talking about the Internet of Things and all this stuff, electrifying, you know, rural boreholes, but we are still talking of hand pump boreholes in urban areas. It's embarrassing. And also, let's not forget that the people that are making decisions in terms of finance and budgeting in most of these institutions are actually men. That's one thing that is embarrassing. Most of the people, if you look at our national government, if you look at local government, the people that are the ultimate decision makers are men. And my question is, do these men care? I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Makosa. You're raising a lot of pertinent issues there. Now I'll go to Zipo. Zipo, sorry. You are working for a movement that is focusing on women and girls to achieve Agenda 2030. Watching that documentary, what were your impressions?
I really feel there's a lot that we should demand and a lot that needs to be done by governments in guiding the lives of women and young people. Because in every pandemic, we can be talking about this as a COVID issue, but this is just bringing out the more ones of the can. When we're looking at issues of cholera outbreak, when we're looking at the unpaid work and so forth. So, like what my colleague has said earlier on, honestly, for a metropolitan city, which was the industrial hub of the southern part of the kingdom, and this is 2020, it shows lack of political will from our leaders to sort this issue out. I mean, when we're growing up, we found the Zambezi Water Project, and here we are still talking about the same thing. So this video, there's nothing new about this video, but it's just exposing the visibility of the issues that the Southern Region community has always been struggling with. So to me, it resonates the issues of the lack of political will to develop the infrastructure of the region. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Zaiko. So looking at this documentary, we have also, I heard you all highlighted that this water crisis has a huge impact or bearing on women and girls. Like Mr. Makosa mentioned, that they can do with 2 liters of water or 5 liters a day, but women cannot do with such a little amount of water. So what is the impact of this crisis on women and girls if you are to add on to the issues that have been raised? Sakile.
Okay, thank you, Pretty. I think you rightly point out that the video was very explicit. The women aired their concerns, but really it has more far-reaching impacts than that, as far as I'm concerned. And the full impact will be felt years from now. This is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. They're talking about obvious issues like that time of the month when the girl child needs more water and still has to go to school, still has to carry water home, and all the sexual harassment that they are being open to by virtue of being left in the queues by their mothers and with all these young boys and dare I say, lecherous men lurking around in the vicinity. But as far as health issues are concerned, right, we don't see any temporary ablutions being put there by City Council, and yet we know that they have these toilets that they hire out for events, but you don't see them anywhere there, and we don't see refuse being picked up. So obvious things like cholera and typhoid, yes, are spoken about as a result of there not being those facilities available at those places. But I think further down the line, we're going to have more instances of women and girls suffering from severe backache, needing constant visits to chiropractors, and in some instances, maybe even needing surgery for slipped discs. And the downside of that, the net result of that is it also has a bearing on their ability to bear children. So it definitely has far more reaching effects than what the documentary touched on. I would add that aspect. That's the obvious thing that came to mind when that lady spoke about carrying 80 liters of water.
Oh, thank you. And then, Mr. Maposa, you said something about men being the ones making decisions, and you asked, do these men really care about the burdens that women are facing? So I just want to find out, where has the government or the Bulawayo City Council failed, and how best can this burden be alleviated from women and girls?
Okay, thank you. Maybe in responding to that, allow me to also expand on what my sister was talking about in terms of the far-reaching consequences, which I agree with her totally. There is also the consequence of a traumatized and abused a young generation. We are growing young girls that are being traumatized and abused in these water points, and they may end up having to accept gender-based violence in the future, from now and even into the future, as a normal thing, which is wrong, and it regresses all the efforts that have been put by different stakeholders in dealing with GBV. So, but back to your question, I think I have one person who have continuously said, we don't have a water crisis in Bulawayo. We don't have one. And we will never have one. That's my argument. We have a serious leadership crisis that is manifesting itself in shortage of water. Right? So the crisis to me is of leadership. So you are asking where they have failed. They have failed in leadership. They have failed in providing leadership. That's one thing that they have failed dismally, both at the local and at the national level. Do you know what? How many cars have been bought for ministers? How many vehicles, Mercedes-Benz and twin cabs, have been bought for our ministers, for our parliamentarians? How many cars have we bought for the mayor of Bulawayo? Not the current one, of course. The different mayors that we have had in Bulawayo. How many cars have we bought? How many cars have we bought for management? And my question is, why are we not using that money to fix water problems? How many international trips are being done by officials going for learning visits on water, but what have they learned? So to me, it's a crisis of leadership. When you are budgeting national budget, look at the money given to Zinwa as we speak. It's nothing. It's not even peanuts. You know, there is no nut in the pea. You know, Zinwa currently does not have, I think, about 4 rigs nationally. That's embarrassing. That's a leadership embarrassment. That's why I'm saying, to me, the crisis is the crisis of leadership. That's the crisis that we have faced. And we see that crisis at both local and at national level. We have, Bulawayo City Council have said that they have over 400 or 500 water bases that are not yet fixed in the city. Why are we doing that? Why do we have such kind of a scenario? Some of the water bases, they have been there for over 4 or 5 years. I remember as Bua, there is a time when we were demonstrating and giving these water bases the pastor certificate, just to shame the extent this thing has been happening. So that's why I'm saying, to me, it's a leadership crisis more than anything else. That's why they have failed.
Oh, thank you, Makosa. You are raising another issue, the case of misplaced priorities, where water provision is probably among the least important things, be it at national or local governance. I'll ask Zaipo to comment as a human rights defender and working for an organization or a movement that is focusing on that. How can communities be part of the solution to the crisis that we are facing?
Thank you so much. But I feel your question is a bit problematic if I pick up from what the previous speaker was saying.
Okay.
How do we speak about communities being part of a solution when we do not have a conducive environment for that? You know, communities have always wanted to solve this issue. And from long back, Bulawayo residents are known to be forthcoming. For the record, Bulawayo residents are known to be, when you compare with the other cities, when it comes to issues of paying bills, people are always looking for problems. Where people, the banking hall, people are always there to commit in building the cities. Historically, the residents themselves were the ones that funded the building of the supply. Historically, each our household has contributed towards the building of the supply. And if you go back to what my brother was saying, the leadership that is in us in facilitating change. So, as I say, it's like a political will. And maybe for communities, it's time we started thinking about issues of advocacy plans and strategy development. But what my brother says is not a water crisis. As a development practitioner, I know about the problem thing, where you need to define the root cause, the core problem, and the impact of the problem. The Bulawayo water crisis, which has been here for over 100 years, is not a core problem, but it's the impact of a core problem of leadership. So it's really difficult, now dialoguing on how people can be. And it's unfortunate when I'm saying it's an issue of political will. The Bulawayo City Council, which is has come on the record and has spoken about the local water. And then we've got the central government that has come, including the president himself, and they have stated the position of the government that it's an issue of not having proper harvesting systems by the council. It's now an issue of blame game by our leaders. And as they say, when elephants fight, it's always the air.
Okay, thank you, Zaipo. As we wrap up our discussion, I noticed that there are so many organizations in Bulawayo that are so much interested in this issue and that are pushing the city council to solve this water crisis in Bulawayo. What can be done as organizations? What can be done within organizations to ensure that this water crisis is dealt with? I'll start with you, Sakile. You work for an organization that seeks to bring the Matabeleland's water project to fruition. What do you think should be done by organizations that are fighting for a common cause that is dealing with the water crisis in Bulawayo? Hello, Sakile.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry.
Okay.
I was just saying, thank you for that question. In working with organizations that seek to bring Zambezi water to Bulawayo, there are a few challenges that we've come across, but insofar as the numerous organizations are concerned, I think there's more a willingness to collaborate as opposed to compete, right? We're not in competition, and there are different technologies that have since been introduced worldwide, which we are looking into as a means of making sure that this project comes into fruition within our lifespan. Previously, I'd like to say there has been no political will to exhibited to make this project come to fruition. And last month we visited the Gwai Shangani Dam, and they will tell you that the project is at 39% completion. And yet the dam is actually 8 meters high. And when complete, it should be 72 meters. So a lot of question marks are drawn. And if you look at the budget, how much money has gone in to that project to build it up to 8 meters, you'll find it's a lot of money that has been put into that project. It's partly our fault as a community or as stakeholders and beneficiaries of this project, in that we have not held the authorities to account. We have not insisted on accountability, more so for the residents of Bulawayo who have been paying through City Council monthly $1 for the pipeline. And when you're talking about an excess of 300,000 households, that's a lot of money. And it's currently being channeled towards other council needs because the project was at a standstill for so long. But I think the time has come now for the residents to come together and say, okay, City Council, we need that money to go back to making sure that this project is completed. The project itself is in 3 phases. The Gwai Shangani Dam is, it's a purview of the government, but the pipeline from there to Bulawayo, it's a purview of City Council. So it's time they started constructing that pipeline. Let us see it working so that when government completes the dam, right, the pipeline should also be complete. Not that after 15 years of building the dam, we have another 15 years of building the pipeline, and yet the money is being collected. So I think the community needs to demand accountability. That is one. And secondly, like my brother said, we need also to make sure that we appoint or elect people of integrity. Because in any crisis, opportunities arise. And the people that are sitting in positions of authority at the moment are seeing opportunities to make money. at the expense of the millions. You understand what I'm saying? So the whole thing is political, in fact. The reason we are in the situation we are in is largely due to politics.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Maposa, you are running the Bulawayo Water Action as a social movement. Do you see us winning this fight against the problems that are causing us to have this man-made water crisis?
Winning, especially if we organize ourselves as a community and ourselves outside political formations and insist on what is key to all of us, which is our right to water. I have seen people standing up. I've seen people demanding their right in a non-violent manner. And I think the mere fact that for years we have never been talking about the Bulawayo water shortage problem, but now we are standing up. We even have different institutions demanding different things. For instance, if you look at Sesbua, we are not talking of Zambezi water project. Why? It's not that we are not saying it doesn't matter or it doesn't work. It's because we are realizing that we have others, like the organization that my sister is representing, that are already talking about that. So ours is to support them. So this confluence of ideas and actions, we are going to definitely win.
Oh, thank you. At least there is hope for Bulawayo. And Zaipo, do you have any comments or to add on to what Sakile and Musa just said?
Hello?
Hello, Zaipo, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry, I had a technical issue with my phone. I think what Sakila is saying really does make sense. You see, the issue of the water crisis, as we call it, though we know it's not the water crisis, when it comes to issues of information dissemination, it has been on the preview of people who run institutions or people who are community activists and so forth, but people on the ground are not aware. I think if my sister research, and believe me, if households knew that they are being ripped off, literally we call it ripped off because if you're not seeing the value for what you're paying for, it's an issue. People are not aware of that. People won't see the need to claim. So yes, we've got the city council, we've got the central government, but as citizens, as residents, we also have a role to play to push and hold the duty bearers accountable. And it starts by making them accountable on really where the resources go. So I really feel there's opportunity. It's just that we're dealing with this issue as a COVID issue, and people prefer to deal with the immediate issues of COVID more than a long-term issue since the crisis has been there for 100 years. But until people can understand that this issue is actually the backbone of most issues in Bulawayo, where we need to highlight it being an industrial hub and the reason why people are moving out, only then can we have the buy-in and the push from citizens. So as someone who runs a movement, I feel we need a different strategy, a different approach, mobilizing communities.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I think you've come to.
Sorry, Pretty, can I just add as an afterthought?
Okay, ma'am.
Right, just listening to my colleagues here, Amanzi Trust has been working on the idea of having a water in Daba,
Okay.
right? We're not sure now if it's going to be possible in the first quarter of next year, whilst it's urgent because of COVID. But we cannot underemphasize the need to have the community's involvement. And it starts with calling the authorities to come together and explain to us why we are where we are and what the challenges are. Because as Amanzi, since our formation, we've had numerous, I can't number the people that have come forward wanting to fund the Zambezi Water Project, right? Wanting partnerships, BOTs, but it's not happening for a reason, which is why I say there's no political will. Now, if we take charge as the beneficiaries of or stakeholders of this project, I think we should get somewhere. So early next year, we look forward to Water in Daba, and I hope my colleagues will be with me on that one.
Oh, well, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Sakile, Kumbulani, and Zaipo for coming through and having this discussion. One thing that I can say is that working together as organizations and as a community, we can win any challenges. We can work towards a common goal and a solution to the problems that we are facing. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and same to you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Thank you very much for this kind of platform. I hope we can create more of such dialogues.
Oh, thank you.
Please help me with Sakile's number.
Oh, all right. Okay. I'll